Austin Miller's loose spin move. Miller
in the end zone. Oh, what a catch!
And he's got an opening. Elliott off to the races. Can they catch him?
It's Ohio State together at the mountaintop. Champions of college football.
The Ohio State of Mind podcast, hosted by Josh Keelan and Chris Wright.
Oh yeah, loving that stank.
Yes, welcome. It is Monday. We're a little bit early. It is Memorial Day to each and all of you that celebrate today. Happy Memorial Day. As always, I'm Chris. To my left, my good friend Josh. And if you're wondering, yes, he is the reason why her hoop is stank. Josh, how are you?
Dude, I'm doing a lot better. The stank always brightens up my day. Chris, I have to credit you for the majority of my music taste, which by the way, I pay attention to your Instagram, your social medias. It appears that your music taste as you have grown has matured and developed. Unfortunately, my music taste is still us in the 8th grade, playing pool, listening to the stank, bro. Like that's things have not changed for me on this end. And that was your CD. That was your CD, if you remember, bro.
I do remember. I think I at like maybe 12 begged my stepbrother to buy me one at a Meyer. And yeah, you still had to be like 18, 17 to buy CDs that cursed in them. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man. But yeah, other than that, it's been an interesting week. Memorial Day. I've been watching. I wanted to bring this up early. Went back watched the 2013 Ohio State Wisconsin game. I don't know why it just popped up on my feed. Dude, Do you remember Jared? I wanted to bring up Jared Abbrederis, dude. Do you remember that guy torching Bradley Roby?
Number 4 white receiver for Wisconsin. Yeah.
Look at insurance salesman. Yeah, bro. Just wanted to bring that up because I remember that guy. I saw that guy torch us again, and I was like, whoa, how did that happen? Bradley Roby also went on to have a hell of an NFL career, mind you.
I would agree. Agree. Anything big in the last week, Buckeye-wise, family-wise? Anything with you, man?
No, man. Baby's got 2 ear infections, so we're just trying to ride that out. Other than that, though, dude, just trying to, just watching some old football and getting ready for the season.
I am in the same. I'm in the same, but you're the deep diver. You're the let me find that one random blowout here and there. Me, I'm the guy that I watch what Buckeye games YouTube suggests for me. Like I was up this morning and I kind of got up a regular work schedule for some reason and had some coffee. Found out the Greek yogurt in the fridge was expired, and turned on the 2016 Ohio State Michigan game, but of course we know everybody and their brother knows how that came in and all the anarchy that assumed was what happened in that one. But that was a classic one. But you got these deep dives like 2008 Bowling Green, opening first game on Fox.
So usually what happens. So I'm still doing kind of my review of the recruiting class for this past year. And I'll be watching a player, and I'll be like, man, that guy reminds me of, for instance, the most recent guy I watched, who was it? It's the defensive tackle, but he reminds me of a little bit of Michael Bennett. And Michael Bennett, I remember him having, a key tackle for loss on like some kind of third down play against Wisconsin that game. So that's why I searched. And that reason that player, I remember that play is because they wore those alternate jerseys with like the black helmet, whatever. Yeah. Right. I wonder if that game's on YouTube because that was such a wild game. And I couldn't remember really why. And it was because that white wide receiver. I remember Monte Ball and I remember James White, but I couldn't remember that white wide receiver. I remember them having like, 200 yards, 300 yards passing. It was just a really weird game. So that's usually how I start my journeys.
I'm with it, man. We've got some a little bit of Buckeye news that has broke since we have adjourned last. Got a couple different things. We've got reseeding of the college football playoffs. We've got Luke Montgomery stepping up into a big, they said he might be the anchor of this offensive line moving into this next season. We've got a grad transfer quarterback that's come in. We have had tragedy strike a former Buckeye, and we've had Texas say, sorry, we are not playing on Sunday. That's the Lord's Day. What do you want to tackle first?
Well, let's go ahead. Let's talk about. I guess we'll talk about Luke Montgomery. That's not really surprising. It's not like huge news. I mean, this was a former 5-star recruit. This is a guy that was like all-state in basketball too, from Finley High School. I think he was on the same AAU team as Bronny James, which was like the AAU team that like recruited like, the best in the country. And I think he outscored Bronny, if I remember right. I mean, this is a really athletic kid. He took that red shirt the first year. We saw him. He was rotating strong. He was rotating in during the playoffs, and you and I were texting each other. Why is Montgomery playing so much? And he played great. Yeah. We bashed him or anything. It was just surprising because he kind of came out of nowhere because it's something that we've been hearing about every offseason, and he just never seems to start. But it looks like now is his time, and I don't think that's surprising to anybody.
No, I don't think it's surprising. It's funny that you bring up him being on the same AAU team with LeBron's boy. If you were to put in Luke Montgomery on Google, it's like probably the second or third picture is a tweet of young Luke Montgomery and LeBron James. No, I mean I think it's a lot of buzz with new offensive line coach Tyler Bowen. He's saying all these great things, how physically this physicality that he's brought this spring so far. And mind you, this is you've got Carson Hintzman on this offensive line. You got Austin Sarafeld. You got so many returning offensive linemen. If they can sit there and hitch their horse to one of them and say, hey, what was once a weakness and now a strong point that we saw throughout the college football playoffs, it's only getting better. Hallelujah, my friend. Yeah,
no, I agree. I agree 100%.
Hallelujah. Speaking of that run in the college football playoffs, they've come forward and said, hey, college football playoffs in 2025, we will have straight seeding now for the college football playoffs. No more of this, conference championship automatically gets this, and this. Straight seeding. What do you think about it, man?
So I don't have an issue with it. I don't have an issue with it because that's how I thought it should have been done before. The reason why, well, no, I don't know if that's true. I don't know how I feel about it. I think that they should have done it. I don't know how to say it. I like that the conference champions earned the bye. I don't think that should have changed. The part that I think that should have changed is that we've always talked about how the 5th seed had the easiest path because there was no reseeding. That was the issue that I had with it. You and I were on this podcast back when we had our because this was an argument that I had with the former co-host, because I said Notre Dame has the easiest goddamn path because they're going to be the 5th seed. Now they weren't ended up not being the 5th seed, but the 5th seed still landed in the championship because it's such a, you get the home game and then you play the weakest of the 4, right? I always thought that was a weird decision. I don't like. So I think that a change needed to be made. I don't think this was it though, because all this did was push teams out like Boise State. Like I don't know why they have to continue to shut on these small schools. Boise State played really well against Penn State. Penn State was a really great team. Obviously they showed that. And Boise State, they didn't get crushed by them. I don't understand why there's this huge upheaval to like get teams like that a smaller seeding. I don't know why that is. People hate small schools for some reason. So I guess overall I disagree with it, but there were always flaws with the system itself. Does that make sense?
So no, it absolutely does. I want to look the other side of that coin though. My question for you is, we just spoke about Notre Dame. What if Notre Dame goes and gets a number 2 seed without winning a conference championship? Are you okay with that?
They can't. They couldn't in the old format.
Well, what I'm saying now.
But they can now. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm hesitant, because it's like, all right, well, they fixed the 5 seed issue, but now you open up that door where there's like 4 SEC teams and I don't like that either. Does that make sense?
No, I think it's a given that you're gonna see a mass influx of Big Ten and SEC teams, but at the same time, you could see a conference champion like Notre Dame or a Notre Dame who didn't win or play in a conference championship get a bye first round.
I don't know if that's ever going to happen, because it appears to me that it's very. I shouldn't say that. It might happen. I think that what the TV networks want is they want 2 Big Ten, 2 SEC teams there, and they get those bye weeks. I'm pretty sure is what the goal is, and to eliminate teams like Boise State. But maybe you're right. Maybe Notre Dame gets more credit than I think. I don't know. You might be right. I don't know. It's hard to say. The scenario that you've laid out though, I don't like it. Right. No. That is an issue to me. It's also an issue to me. I don't like it. I do think that the bye weeks I don't have an issue with how they did the bye weeks. I really, truly don't. In an ideal world, what I think they should do is they should expand the playoffs to 16 teams and no one gets any bye weeks.
I like that.
I don't know why the buys seem kind of nonsensical. But you got to shorten the season.
No, I would agree. You're gonna run these kids into the dirt. No, I agree. We talked about Luke Montgomery. We're talking about the seeding. Let's talk about, it's a big issue for everyone besides you and me, apparently. But hey, everybody wants Ohio State, Texas, big prime time matchup. They want it in prime time. Then Ohio State apparently came forward, said, hey, how would we play this on Sunday, make it the only ticket in town? And apparently Texas has rebuked that. Heads or tails of it? I think I know where you stand, but what do you think?
Well, where do you think I stand?
I think you stand in the side of I could give a shit less.
Damn, dude, you know me too well. Damn, you know me too well. Yeah, I don't give a shit. I don't know, man. Is it kind of a pussy thing to do? Yeah. Do they have a right to do it? Yeah. Is anybody going to care 2 months from now? No. Are Ohio State fans going to blame this? Blame the loss on this? Yeah. Like it's just one of those things.
No,
but you're
absolutely right.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
I've been hearing a lot of people come forward here in the last 7 days. They're saying, hey, they don't want to see Arch Manning exposed in a nighttime environment in the shoe, kind of like Nico Iamaleava was. Do you think you hold any credence to that?
Who's saying that?
I had a couple of friends come forward and say that they don't want to see
the TV, like it's the TV networks that are making that call.
No. They don't want Texas themselves. They don't want to see Arch Manning get exposed under the lights at the shoe, kind of like Nico Iamaleava did in the playoffs.
I don't think it has anything to do with Arch. I just don't think why if you have the option to not make the environment. I don't think it matters who the quarterback is. If you have the option to make the environment less hostile, you're going to take that opportunity. It's up to Ohio State fans to make sure that that's not the case. The problem is, and here's the real issue, and I hate to say this, I really do. Ohio State fans are not great. They're just not. It's funny because they're not great in a different reason than most consider. Most people hate Ohio State fans because they're so passionate. They overreact to the Michigan loss. They overreact to this. No, the problem with Ohio State fans is when Ohio State plays shitty teams or when it's a blowout, they leave the stadium. They show up late. Yeah. Like there are a lot of games where it's the third quarter and there'll be 30,000 people left in the stadium. Like that's a real thing, right? The Ohio State fans shouldn't need the kickoff to be a primetime kickoff to be pumped, dude. And it's sickening. Yeah. It's sickening that we have to keep saying that. And that's a fact, bro. I mean, Ohio State fans can argue with me all they want. I'm in the stadium I'm at every fucking home game since COVID, dude. And the stadium is just. It's not like I think it's because we're spoiled. The Ohio State's so good now, but it's just not like it was. And I think that the oversaturation of those primetime games probably contributed to that. I don't know. I'm kind of getting down a conspiracy rabbit hole now, but Ohio State fans just have to step up, dude. They have to make sure it's hostile no matter what the game is.
I wholeheartedly agree that. And I was also thinking if you look ahead at the week 1 schedule, obviously SEC Network owned by ABC. You also have on that week 1, that Sunday, that one, week 1 always has that one Sunday game. You're going to have Notre Dame and Miami on ABC on Sunday night as well. So really, I mean, you're going to be splitting hairs and running 2 marquee matchups on 2 different networks on the only day that there's only 2 games. You have to offset them anyway. So I don't see the point. I don't see the plus. And get there, I'm a guy that say, hey, football season starts. It's supposed to be, it's that first Saturday in the fall, and it's supposed to be at noon. I'm supposed to get up early and go and get my shitty Little Caesars pizza early as hell, like right when they open, so I can have that hot and ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, dude.
So
I'm with you, dude. There's nothing like a Saturday waking up, cranking down, getting in the shower, getting that hot and ready, bro. Rocking and rolling into the day, baby.
Last story about current Buckeyes. Hey, Ohio State, they went ahead and landed a commitment from Houston Christian, a graduate transfer, Eli Brickhandler, fucking name of the year, probably. He will be the 4th quarterback to provide a little bit of veteran depth alongside Lincoln Keyholes, Julian Zan, Tavian St. Clair. He started his career, I believe it was North Carolina A&T before transferring to Houston Christian after two seasons I have written down. And then he platooned with the Huskies quarterback, Cutter Stewart, appeared in 8 games, threw for about 49, almost 50%, 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Any credence to the pickup? Anything of note? Anything of value here, Josh?
No, man. He's very much in the same vein as Churganoff. Where did Churganoff transfer from? West Virginia, is that right?
That's
and then who was the other?
I heard a Churganoff reference. Here we go.
You remember him though?
Yeah, I do.
Here, let's Google it. Churganoff, Ohio State.
Churganoff.
Yeah, Chris Churganoff. He transferred him from West Virginia. Or who was the kid that transferred him from Oklahoma State?
Oh, fuck you.
No, it was Oregon State.
Yep. The other OSU, you're right.
Shit, what was his name? This makes for great radio. Tristan Gebbia.
Gebbia, that's it. Gebbia.
Yeah, it's the same as those. He might be a little bit better because I think he's more athletic. But Gebbia was also maybe not, because Gebbia was really highly. I mean, he was as highly recruited as Matthew Baldwin, who we're about to talk about. Started out in Nebraska, sat the bench at Oregon State, but he got snaps. Brent Candler didn't start at NCAT, and that's an HBCU. They played good football. I think Tariq Cohen went there.
But
it's
right.
not like, it's not like a powerhouse. It's not like an Appy State of old with Amartey Edwards. And then I don't think he started at Houston Christian either.
No,
and they're also
he split games.
Yeah, and they're even worse than in North Carolina A&T. So I don't think that this guy's going to see the field. But I mean, it's cool. I don't have an issue with it. You got somebody who's experienced, kind of.
Right? They're not my scholarships. Yeah,
right. Yeah, pretty much. All right, whatever. So I was trying to see if he was from Ohio. I thought maybe it was like an Ohio thing, because I think Churganoff was from Ohio. Some of those guys that transfer in here that are never going to see the field are from Ohio. Like that's kind of how I justified the Justin. Of course, Justin Terry. My understanding is he's going to play eventually. That's the guard that transferred from West Virginia because he's really young. He was like a 3-star recruit. But this kid's from California, so it's really interesting. I don't know. Maybe I think he's athletic, so maybe.
I think there was something. Some underlying stories about him pursuing possibly wanting to play basketball as well.
I don't know. That would also blow my mind, because if you didn't do it, I mean, did he do that anywhere else? I don't.
I have no idea. I mean, he had intentions of walking on the basketball team. There's something.
Can you be good at basketball with brick in your name?
That was what I was getting to. If he's a bricklayer and not a brick handler, so. No, and then final and Buckeye news, sad one here. Former Ohio State wide receiver Julian Fleming, he was seriously injured on Friday evening in Pennsylvania during a ATV accident. Per the reports, Fleming and who was assumed to be his girlfriend, Alyssa Boyd, she was 23 years old. They were on an ATV, which collided with a deer that jumped out on the roadway. And neither Fleming nor Boyd were wearing any type of safety equipment or protective personal equipment. Fleming, he suffered serious injuries. I do not have an update. He was brought to Guthrie Troy Community Hospital in Pennsylvania, and his girlfriend, Alyssa, was announced dead at the scene. Julian has not had the easiest. We've talked about him, in extensively last week or 2 weeks ago. And, he was always that what could have been kind of player. He was just always fighting injuries and ailments and what have you. And also, in a stacked wide receiver room. He did go undrafted. He did sign with the Green Bay Packers here last month, but in which he did, that offer was rescinded upon failing a physical. prayers out to Julian Fleming and their family. Prayers out to the family of Alyssa Boyd, who again was assumed to be the girlfriend of Julian Sayin, a Alabama fan by choice. They said that Julian Sayin converted her to a Penn State Nittany Lion fan, but 23 years old is way, way, way too young. And prayers out to everybody on that one.
Yes, that is depressing. Thank you.
Yeah,
ATV accidents, man. People don't. I think people misunderstand how common they are too. It's really kind of weird. I mean, well, I guess maybe they don't, because for Ohio State fans, I mean, Brian Hartline had an ATV accident last year. But yeah, ATV accidents. It's weird. Yeah, you see those a lot, unfortunately.
Wild stuff. But we've got any other Buckeye news we missed on?
Doug, I was going to be nice to him. I didn't want to bring it up. Yeah, you did say Julian Sayin a couple times.
Did I?
Yes, Julian Fleming. It was somber news, Doug. So I was going to let it go because I knew what he meant. I knew his heart was in the right place.
We'll chalk it up to Josh having me come on a little early. You know.
Yeah, it's my fault.
It being Memorial Day, Uncle Sam over here still had me come to work. We are going to get into the 2018 recruiting class. It is tragic. You're absolutely right, Doug.
Yes.
Wild to wake up Saturday morning and see that.
Julian is a good person. Julian is a really good person. He's got a great attitude. Every time I talk to him, he's always been a very pleasant individual. I would never wish anything bad upon him. I know that we had a podcast that talked about him a couple weeks ago. It wasn't super glowing. But he, as a human being, he's a great human being. So this is devastating for sure. We're rooting for him. We want something to happen. Something good to happen.
Have you seen any updates on any injuries or anything of the sort? I haven't either.
No.
Okay. Same thing as the last 2 weeks. We're going through the Buckeye recruiting class. Our breakdown is right here to our right. This week, we're going over the year of 2018. Josh, go ahead and bring us on in. Set the landscape for us. Set the landscape.
Yes, sir. So let's go over. We do every week. The top. First, we're going to start off with the top 10 players in this class. Okay. Number 1 was Trevor Lawrence, who committed to Clemson. I think we all are aware of Trevor Lawrence, right? No one would call him a bust. Justin Fields, quarterback, committed to Georgia. Later on, transferred to Ohio State and Ryan Day. First rounder. No one would call him a bust. Xavier Thomas, defensive end, went to Clemson. Was drafted in the 5th round by the Cardinals. I don't think anybody would call him a bust. He probably didn't live up to the hype like most people thought, but he had a very, very good career. No, I don't think anybody would call him a bust. Yabi Onama, who changed his last name to Oki after his mother or grandmother passed away. I can't remember. He had a family tragedy that occurred when he transferred to Michigan, but he did not go there at first. He committed to Alabama, where he played a significant amount of snaps. I believe he was a freshman All-American, and then he just stopped going to classes, and then he transferred to Houston. Then he transferred to UT Martin. Then he transferred to Michigan. And then he transferred to Charlotte, where he ended his career. Interesting to know that he did go to St. Francis in Baltimore, Maryland. And as we all know, Coach Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, hired Biff Poggi, who was associated with St. Francis in Baltimore. One of the reasons why they got Oki that year, but Ohio State didn't want him anyways because, again, I think he had some academic issues. But weird, since Michigan holds himself in high esteem.
We're all Biff Poggi fans. I mean,
sweetest tits in college football. That's what I've been told.
Dude, I mean, I chalk it up to, you've got the kid, this and that. Are you working on the Biff Poggi physique? You're gonna start flailing the sleeves?
Oh, dude, I need to.
I tie them to knots.
We should, if Ohio State, we should really try to look at the schedule next year and try to have like a Biff Poggi celebration episode. Maybe we'll have Colby on where we all just show side boob and whole episode's just zoomed into like half of our nipple. But yeah,
I'm with it.
But that also explains why Onama transferred to Charlotte, right? Because that's where Poggi ended up going.
Yes.
Yeah. That I would classify that as a bust, right? He didn't even fucking play, or he played. Failed out miserably. Micah Parsons, defensive end, went to Penn State. No one's calling him a bust. First round pick. Patrick Surtain Jr., cornerback, Alabama, first round pick. Again, no one's calling him a bust. Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, Off tackle, Ohio State,
Hey.
third rounder, All-American. No one's calling him a bust, worth the hype.
Nope.
Justin Shorter, wide receiver, went to Penn State, transferred to Florida, was a 5th-round pick. I don't think anybody's calling him a bust. He was kind of like a G. Scott success story. He didn't play a lot at Penn State. Someone should really do a documentary on the amount of wide receivers Penn State's fucked up, because they've had a lot of since James Franklin's been there.
Yeah.
The amount of guys that they've had that they haven't been able to produce or develop at all is shocking. And that goes for transfers too. I mean, Dante Cephas was like a all-MAC player at Kent State, and he doesn't catch one fucking ball at Penn State's wild.
Yeah, good call. Good pull.
Yeah, it was super weird. But he went to Florida, was fairly productive. I don't think anybody would call him a bust. He was just kind of like he was like a super athletic tight end, and he was not a wide receiver. Zamir White, running back, went to Georgia, 4th rounder. I don't think anybody's calling him a bust. Again, slightly underwhelming, but not a bust. Jameer Salyer, guard, Georgia, 6th-round pick, but he wasn't All-American. I don't think anybody's calling him a bust either. This class compared to the 2020 or the 2019 class, I think that the 2019 class is probably better depth-wise, but this 2018 class, I mean, there's some fucking star power here, dude. There's no, I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
I'll come out and say, hey, I went ahead and thought, this class would rate higher than the 2019 class solely because of the amount of recruits Ohio State pulled in. But again, you're absolutely right. There were a couple of absolute trailblazers in this class that really went off.
Yeah, that goes for Ohio State too, and that goes for the Ohio class too. I don't know if this Ohio class is that we try to go talk about the top players in Ohio every year. And that goes for this too. I mean, there's a couple guys here that you're going to be like, oh, wow. And then a couple guys you're going to be like, who? Jackson Carman off the tackle. This was a big fucking miss. This this year. I know everybody remembers the Jackson Carman drama. Ohio State was going to get Nicholas Petitfrere and Jackson Carman. I think Rasheed Walker was another offensive tackle that Ohio State was looking at. Walker ended up going to Penn State, and then Jackson Carman, the Ohio boy, ended up going to Clemson. Ended up being a 2nd-round pick, had a very, very good career at Clemson. That was devastating. That was a big loss. I think that kind of proved it too, because he had such a great career. Jalen Gill, running back, he did go to Ohio State. Then he transferred. We'll get into his career a little bit more, but this is a guy that I would put a little bit of an asterisk. Maybe not. We'll deep dive in later. But we transferred to Boston College. Then he transferred to Fresno State, and I believe he's in the CFL right now. Tyreek Smith, defensive end, Ohio State, 5th rounder. Everybody loves Tyreek Smith. Had a great career. LaChristian Blue Smith, athlete from the Cincinnati area. He was 6'6". Everybody kind of knew he was going to be a wide receiver. Transferred to Cincinnati, and he transferred to Western Kentucky. Didn't do much with either of those teams. Dallas Gant, linebacker. He ended up transferring. He didn't play very much at Ohio State. Transferred to Toledo. Had a fucking great career at Toledo. Was first-team All-MAC for 2 years. I think he's still bouncing around the NFL. Went undrafted again. So we got 2 guys that were good, 3 guys that were pretty much busts. Again, it's an interesting class. Let's go over these. Before we go, anything to add on those guys before we move on?
No, I think you absolutely. I'm glad you put the emphasis on Dallas Gant. Seeing someone, come to Ohio State, didn't find their groove, couldn't find their mold within the roster itself, and then go have a successful career.
Yes,
and stay in the state of Ohio and become it's different when they jump to LSU or they jump to Alabama and light the world on fire. But to see these success stories, to go to Toledo, Kent State, Akron, what have you, have by these max standards had phenomenal careers and good on them.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this class is probably not as good as the 2019 class as far as overall talent, but Jackson Carman and Tyreek Smith, those are 2 of the better guys from the state of Ohio in the last 10 or so years. Let's go over. Should I go over what the preseason magazine says, or do you want me to go over the misses? Let's go over the misses. Let's go
over Doug saying, "Hey, Julian Fleming had to find and teach these Penn State players how to use it." That explains why Penn State hasn't had success in the wide receiver room.
Yeah, no shit.
I could see that, Doug. No, go ahead, Josh.
Okay, so there was a couple misses from that year. These are the 4 ones listed by 24/7 Sports, but there's other ones. There was Rashad. I didn't write them down. Today was a pretty hectic day, but there was a wide receiver that ended up going to Florida State. That was kind of a big one. Rasheed Walker ended up going to Penn State. That was kind of a big one. Palio Giate, the outside linebacker, ended up committing to USC, which is funny because he transferred back to Ohio State later on. Did absolutely nothing. That was another miss. I think Jackson Carman is probably the most egregious of the misses. But the guys that were committed and decommitted before early signing day. The first one was Jaden Lars Woodby, safety. He ended up committing to Florida State. He started as a freshman and then just kind of fell out of favor and transferred to Boston College. Didn't really do much. This was a guy, I don't really know what the deal was on the podcast, on all the podcasts, because I tried to do a deep dive and go back and listen to all the podcasts and all that shit from the time. And he was published as going to Ohio State on early signing day. So I don't know if he sent in his letter of intent and then backed out. I couldn't get a lot of clarification on that, but he was the only guy when they released
shitty fax machine.
I don't know what the deal is, because when they took him off the Ohio State had during the early signing period, Ohio State had the number one class by a wide margin over Georgia and Alabama. And he was kind of the dude that put them over the edge. He was a 5-star guy. And then when they took him off the names, that's when Ohio State fell to number 2. So I don't know if there was just a miscommunication or they were counting their eggs or chicks before they hatched. I don't know what the deal was.
Yeah.
But he was committed at one point. Brenton Cox, the defensive end, he ended up going to Georgia, transferred to Florida. Didn't do anything at Georgia. Transferred to Florida. Didn't get drafted. He was very subpar. Emory Jones was a huge one. Emory Jones, if you go back and look at podcasts from that time, Emory Jones was seen as like seen as a savior. Like he was like the dude. Everybody was like, this is the guy. You're gonna be the dog. You're gonna start immediately. Like they were hitching their wagon to the Emory Jones train. And he was visiting. And Ohio State doesn't like when you visit, especially under the Urban Meyer era. They were very much like, hey, if you're gonna commit here, you're done visiting schools. And Emory, they let him go. They were like, all right, that's fine, man. You can visit other schools. They were basically like kind of like pussyfooting around, trying not to piss him off because they wanted him so badly. And he even came to Friday Night Lights and kind of lit the world. He just had a very impressive camp circuit, including at Ohio State, and was very much like, I'm coming to Ohio State, but I'm going to visit all these schools. So it was kind of interesting to watch that journey because he was committed all the way up to the 12th hour, and then he committed to Florida. Didn't do shit. Went to Arizona State. Didn't do shit. Went to Cincinnati. Didn't do shit. Okay. I think he's with the Falcons on the practice squad, actually, which I'm really surprised by. But that was obviously he's not a very good football player. Andrew Chatfield Jr., 4-star defensive end. This was a guy that was him and both Brent and Cox. They're listed as misses, but there's some conflicting reports there. Ohio State and Urban Meyer wanted Woodby, and they wanted Jones. They were willing to sell their souls for those two guys. Those guys are legit misses. Same with Jackson Carman, who never committed to Ohio State, but they wanted him bad. Chatfield and Cox, there's some interpretation that maybe once they got – because Tyreek Smith kind of held out a little bit. Once they got Tyreek, and there's another defensive end on this list, Tyler Friday's on this list as well, who Ohio State got. They were kind of like, okay, we don't need you guys. You guys waited too long. You didn't sign your letter of intent. We're fucking out on you anyways. And he ended up going to Florida, didn't do shit. Went to Oregon State, also didn't do shit. Anything that you want to say about those guys before I dive into what the preseason mag said that year?
No, you were dead. You were dead on when it came to Emory Jones, though. It seemed like everybody and their brother. He was a recruiting household name at the time.
Yes, 100%.
Very much
100%.
So.
They were hitching their wagon to him and Woodby. Woodby was a big deal. If you go back and listen to those podcasts and shit, everybody's talking about Woodby like he's Caleb Downs. He's the next Mike Dawes. I mean, it was pretty intense. But the defensive ends, though, again, I think that was more Ohio State being like, yeah, that's fine. We're over you. But let's dive in. This is from Lindy's. Lindy's ranks Ohio State's recruiting class as number 2. 23 of Ohio State's 26 signees in 2018 were ranked as 4 stars or better by the 24/7 Sports Composite. And Urban Meyer has the Buckeyes recruiting at a consistency that few can match. In a year that had limited true offensive tackle talent, Ohio State got the best out there by landing Tampa 5-star Nicholas Petit-Frere. It also went to SEC country and landed a tackle prototype out of Middle Tennessee in Max Ray. Brooklyn native Matthew Jones joins that duo as the number 1 center in the country. Ohio State took care of the defensive trenches too. Teron Vincent, the son of NFL legend Troy Vincent, comes to Columbus as the number 1 defensive tackle in the country. And Tommy Togiai comes from Wyoming, which is wrong. He's from Idaho, as the number 3 defensive tackle in the class. They'll be joining Antoine Jackson, a bounce back from Auburn that was ranked as the number 1 JUCO prospect in the country. While there's elite talent all over the place, running back really jumps out. Tampa back Brian Snead is the number 3 running back in the class and looks like a unique talent. Yeah, he was talented, all right. We'll get into his story later. Jalen Gill's the number 2 all-purpose back in the country and is a perfect fit as a jet sweep pass catcher in Ohio State's offense. Then there's Master Teague, a rocked-up physical back with elite speed that's a major steal. So let's go on to this one. This is by Alan True, again, in the preseason magazine. Ohio State have the number 1 recruiting class in all the Big Ten. The Buckeyes signed the number 2 class nationally. The defensive line class is an embarrassment of riches as Antoine Jackson, a 4-star JUCO prospect, joins 5-star Teron Vincent and 4-stars Tommy Togiai, Tyreek Smith, and Javante Jean-Baptiste. Alex Williams, the 1 3-star, may have as much upside as the others, while 5-star tight end Jeremy Ruckert may start immediately. The nation's number 1 offensive tackle, Nicholas Petit-Frere, could develop into a high draft choice. The defensive back class includes 5-star Tyreek Johnson and physical safety Josh Proctor. The newcomer of the year. Okay, this is their prediction for newcomer of the year. Ohio State has an immediate need at tight end, and it signed a 5-star in Jeremy Ruckert there. In the past, the tight end has not been a focal point of the Buckeye passing game, but a rare prospect like Ruckert has the tools to be a feature player. He did not enroll early, but still has a good chance to start and contribute. Likely to be the best NFL player. Penn State signing Micah Parsons, yada, yada, yada. I'll skip to the Ohio State part. A nod should go to the nation's number 1 offensive tackle recruit in Ohio State signing Nicholas Petit-Frere. As well, a very athletic prospect and a premium position. All right, cool. Number 1 signing coup. You'll like this. Why did I screenshot this? Oh, because it was talking about Rondale Moore. That's right, because Rondale Moore flipped. I just thought that was interesting, but whatever. Rondale Moore. Obviously, Ohio State fans will always remember the name Rondale Moore. Biggest miss. Here we go. Biggest miss. Michigan worked hard to get one more offensive lineman into the class, and it had long been in on 5-star Nicholas Petit-Frere. The Wolverines even held bowl practices at his high school. Many Ohio State fans will remember that because that was a big fucking deal, right? You guys remember? Yeah. Tampa, Florida, at Berkeley Prep when he did not choose the Wolverines. That was a tough blow, and the fact that he went to rival Ohio State only added to that. So they went to his. That's how pathetic Michigan was under the Harbaugh era that everybody forgets about because it's national. They were practicing at high schools to get kids to go, and they still said fuck off. Top newcomer, this is also a different writer in the same magazine. Teron Vincent, Ohio State has more depth at defensive line than any position on the team, but it is hard to ignore this 6'2", 290-pound defensive tackle who rated as the number 1 overall player at his position in the 2018 recruiting class. Vincent is expected to be too good to not contribute as a true freshman. That's it. That's all I screenshot. There was a lot more, but I decided that those were the big key ones. So now you guys got an idea of who were the guys that continuously kept popping up, correct?
No, absolutely. I think what I keep forgetting that Teron Vincent and Troy Vincent related. I don't know why that totally escaped me on that one.
Yeah, because I think it's easier to assume that the person's kid would be playing the same position, kind of like Antoine Winfield or Shiloh Sanders.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I think during his entire, short tenure at Ohio State, I didn't get that factoid once.
Really? Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I skipped.
Now you know.
Completely missed out on this 2018 class right off the rip. The number 1 offensive tackle in the nation, the number 3 player in the state. NPF, baby.
Yes, Nicholas Petit-Frere was a offensive tackle 5-star Under Armour All-American. This is back when Under Armour tried to have a high school All-American game, which was annoying. It was annoying that there was 2. He won the starting right tackle job entering the 2020 season. Was a 2-year starter for Ohio State. Started 20 games. Earned first-team All-American honors in 2021 by the Football Writers of America as well as CBS Sports. He was named first-team All-Big Ten 2021 by both the coaches and the media and was a member of the 2021 Outland Trophy watch list. So definitely one of the best to ever strap it up for Ohio State at offensive tackle. Yeah, man, not a lot to say about him. Just a great player. Definitely worth his weight in gold. He got 15 points.
Yeah, and our boy Teron Vincent right after him. That it's always been put in like that IMG Academy. It's always just like, what am I really getting from a player with IMG Academy? Am I getting leaps and bounds the next big thing, or am I just have you put the smoke screen in front of me? But Teron Vincent.
Yeah, well, so 24/7 Sports had Jeremy Ruckert as number 2 guy, but we can go to Teron Vincent if you want. Teron Vincent, defensive tackle, was an Army All-American, not an Under Armour All-American. because again, there were 2 games at this time.
I think I pulled these graphics on 3, my friend. So please, if you want to go in your order, go right ahead.
Oh, did you? Oh shit, my bad.
Yeah.
Whatever, that's fine.
No, you're fine.
Who cares?
Pictures.
Yeah, we'll I got my little sheet up here, so I can't see the graphics.
Okay.
So a lot of recruiting services listed as a 5-star, including 24/7 Sports for a huge portion. Their final rankings, Tehran was dropped to a 4-star. What did On3 have? I'm looking at your list now. So they gave Terry Johnson 5-star. Yeah, okay. And that comes up a lot, right? He recorded 58 total tackles, 8 tackles for loss, and 2.5 sacks throughout his career. He suffered the first of several injury-related setbacks during his tenure in the lead up to 2019 when a torn labrum forced him out for the entire season. So he already started off with a rough foot. He again got hurt during the 2020 season with his knee injury. But he did play quite a bit that year despite the injury. In 2021 was probably his best year, I'd say. He was splitting reps with Haskell Garrett. He had 23 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and 0.5 sack, and earned honorable mention all Big Ten. His last season, he finished with a career high 25 tackles, a career high 2.5 tackles for loss, and 0.5 sack, and also a fumble recovery. Is that no? So the 2.5 tackles for loss was not a career high that year, just the tackles. He played in every game that year for the first time in his career. So maybe those last 2 years are maybe the best. This guy, Tehran Vincent, unfortunately, did only score. He scored 0 points. Yeah. That's a little unfair because he was productive. He was a very solid.
There's a couple people in here that are going to get no points, and they did what was within themselves and what the university asked them. Honestly,
yeah, Tehran Vincent, he was definitely a bust. I mean, I don't because he was. I mean, you guys heard how often he got brought up. People were talking about him like he was good. You got to force people out and just start immediately, and that just wasn't going to happen. It would have been interesting to see what would happen if he was healthy. Those things, a man of his size, those injuries can affect you a little bit worse. It would have been interesting. I don't know if that really was going to change his scope, though, if that makes sense.
No.
But yeah, it is interesting. So who's your number 3 guy? I want to make sure I'm going.
My next guy, I've got Tyreek Johnson, the #1 athlete in the country.
All right, so that's really interesting because he's number 6 on 24/7's final list.
Ooh, okay.
But he is rated as a 5-star by a lot of recruiting services. He was actually rated as a 5-star on 24/7's recruiting service like in December and November, and then they changed it with the last thing. They knocked him down to a 4-star at the very end for some reason. He was rated as an athlete, but that was only because no one knew if he was going to play safety or cornerback in college. He was an Army All-American. He played in 12 games in 2019 and 2020 combined, played 5 games in 2020, had 5 tackles, 4 tackles specifically against Rutgers. In 2019, he played in 7 games, had 3 tackles, and had 2 tackles against Rutgers. So his 2 best games of his career were against Rutgers. And then he redshirted his first year on campus in 2018 before transferring to Nebraska, where he was pretty lackluster there as well.
Yes, I would agree. I would absolutely agree. Just beneath him, I've got Taraja Mitchell from Bayside, Virginia Beach. Yeah.
Dude, their rankings are way fucking different. Okay. So how many stars did On3 give Taraja?
4 stars.
All right. Taraja Mitchell was the 15th recruit in this class based on 24/7's rankings. Rated as a 4-star outside linebacker, was an Under Armour All-American. He really was okay.
Yeah.
He wasn't good. He was like, I don't know how to describe it, because Tehran Vincent was like not a liability. Taraja Mitchell, there were moments he was like, "Damn you, Taraja," you know what I mean? But like he played, you know what I mean? Yeah. So he had like 45. His best year was 2021. He had 45 tackles, including 4.5 tackles for loss, and then he transferred to Florida. He kind of saw the writing on the wall. They were definitely working him out. He just didn't have those athletic traits that you look for in a linebacker. Florida gave him a pretty big NIL bag too. I don't think Tyreek Johnson got a big NIL bag because I think Nebraska kind of also saw and was hoping for the best. But Florida had every intention on Taraja Mitchell running that defense, and he was just a pretty underwhelming guy. So unfortunately, I believe he got 0 points as well.
Yes, he got 0 points as well. No, you're absolutely right. When it did seem like Florida was very vocal when they got Mitchell, and they were very much clamoring that he was going to be this big stud, this big leader on their defensive side of the ball. Because
And he started at Ohio State. He did start at Ohio State. He just wasn't like, he was clearly a guy that they were trying to work out. It also should be noted, Toronto Mitchell was so good and has been so good for so long and was such a highly rated guy that he was on the USA under 18 team. Like they would have like a team of under 18-year-olds. There were some notable guys on that team. Todd Gurley was on that team. Dwayne Haskins was on that team.
Right.
Jameis Winston was on some of those teams. So that's kind of a big deal. You know what I mean? Like there were some stars on those under 18 teams. Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett.
There you go.
Who's next?
Let me throw you for another loop. We got Westerville South own Jalen Gill, running back.
So Jalen Gill, he was the number 9 player based on the 24/7 report. Did they give him 4 stars or 5 stars on your thing?
He was a 4-star. On 3.
That makes sense. He was a 4-star at 24/7 Sports as well. There were some recruiting services that did give him a 5-star. Big thing we should have noted at the beginning. 2018 was the first year for the early signing period. Okay.
Yes.
And Urban Meyer absolutely smashed it. He was kind of against it. And he mentioned Jalen Gill was like the prime example. He's like, well, Jalen Gill's what this is for. This is a guy that's been committed to Ohio State for 3 years. He's from the area. Let's get it done so no one's bothering him and move on. And he's like, but we end up just taking advantage. So that the Jalen Gill thing kind of right. But this is the first year for the actual early signing period. It's also, this is the first recruiting class that was able to take advantage of that redshirt rule where you could play 4 games and still get a redshirt. So please take that as a note as well. But Jalen Gill was definitely seen as a prize guy. He was seen as a running back, a 4-star guy, Army All-American. Took a redshirt in 2018. That was the year he switched from running back to wide receiver. He saw his first action in 2019 when he scored a 32-yard touchdown again against Rutgers. That year he finished with 6 receptions for 51 yards and a touchdown before transferring to Boston College, where he did nothing. And then Fresno State, where he was he wasn't like Devontae Adams, but he was okay. I think he had like 50 receptions or whatever. So I would say he was even probably underwhelming for Fresno State's passing attack. The thing about Jalen Gill that I want to point out, though, I don't think he was ever going to be a superstar, but I don't think that Ohio State fans remember Jalen Marshall really fondly, and they should. He had a very productive Ohio State career. Yeah. I don't think and KJ Hill too. I don't think Jalen Gill is that much different than those guys. The problem with what happened with Jalen Gill is that he committed to Ohio State when Urban Meyer was running the offense where they had a very, very active H-back role. Right. He had guys like Curtis Samuel who played running back, wide receiver. KJ Hill was getting snaps. He was getting carries. Jalen Marshall was getting carries. Right. This is the same offense that had Percy Harvin. That was Jalen Gill. Jalen Gill was supposed to be the Percy Harvin of this Ohio State offense. So when Urban Meyer left,
Wilson.
So when Urban Meyer left, which would have been after Jalen Gill's true freshman season, Ryan Day didn't use that position. His wide receivers were receivers, and Jalen Gill was lost. He got lost in the shuffle. That's not what he came there for. So again, I don't think he was going to be an All-American or anything, but it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if he did have more of a role. Maybe you're right. Maybe he would have been just the next Dontre Wilson, just an underwhelming guy who we talked about. Well, maybe, but he did kind of get the coaching change kind of screwed him a little bit.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Moving on, my next guy I've got on here, Tyreek Smith, Cleveland Heights, baby.
Okay. And it should be noted that so far these are all 0-point guys. Tyreek Smith, though, he was the number 7 Ohio State recruit. What's he on yours? Or he was the number 7th best recruit in the class for Ohio State. What's he on yours? He's gone. All right. Tyreek is a 4-pointer, another Under Armour All-American guy, defensive end, 4-star defensive end. He had his best games where he had 5 tackles, his career high 5 tackles against Penn State in 2021. And then the next week he matched that against Nebraska as well. He played 7 games in 2020, which is actually pretty impressive because there was only 8 games that year. That's the COVID shortened season. And he even had a really impressive game against Clemson in the semifinals where he had 2 tackles, 1 tackle being for loss and 1 sack, as well as a forced fumble and a pass deflection. As a true sophomore in 2019, he played in 11 games and actually started 4 of them. He had a 2-sack game against Maryland in 2019 that year. And then even as a true freshman, he played a pretty decent amount. So Tyreek Smith was not a disappointment. Again, a 4-pointer. Chris, as you walked away, I was asking you. He was rated as the number 7 recruit in the Ohio State recruiting class by 24/7 Sports. What is he on it?
He is for Ohio State. He is the number 6. He was ranked the 3rd at his position, the number 3 in the state, and 41st nationally.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a guy. This was Tyreek Smith was definitely a dude, definitely a dog. What's next? Who you got next?
Next, I've got from On3, the number 1 ranked in the state, Jeremy Rucker. Out of New York,
Jeremy Rucker. Jeremy Rucker was the number 2 rated Ohio State recruit based on 24/7. They gave him a 5-star recruit. He ended it with a 5-star tight end. New York Gatorade Player of the Year, Army All-American. If you haven't seen Jeremy Rucker's high school highlight tape, I recommend everybody go watch it. It's one of the most dominating high school tapes you'll ever see. No one could stop him. It's absolutely insane.
It was wild.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why everybody was so psyched about him. And he was good. He was a 2021. He was on the 2021 Mackey Award watch list, which is obviously goes to the top tight end. He didn't win it, but he still should be noted. He started 15 games during his career. As a senior, he doubled his career totals. He had 26 passes that year for 309 yards and 3 touchdowns, where he earned honorable mention All Big Ten. His 12 total career touchdowns, ranked 2nd all-time among Ohio State tight ends, trailing only Jake Stoneburner, who had 13. His 54 career receptions ranked 11th among Ohio State tight ends in history. A couple of the big highlight games he had 2 touchdowns against Penn State in 2020, as well as against Clemson in the 2020 college football playoff semifinal. He had that sick one-hander, if you guys remember. He played it. He saw action in all 14 games as a true sophomore in 2019, where he snagged 14 catches for 142 yards and 4 touchdowns that year. He also had a spectacular one-handed 16-yard touchdown grab against Wisconsin that year in the 2019 Big Ten championship when they won, when they came back from behind 34-21 and beat Wisconsin. So he definitely had a career.
He was definitely the catalyst of that game. You go back and watch that game; they were just getting their dicks pounded in the whole first half of that game. And that highlight reel and Gus Johnson absolutely losing his shit. That was that definitely kicked him into full gear. Big Jeremy Rucker fan was happy to see him go to New York. Where's he at now, Josh?
Isn't he still with New York?
Is he still with New York?
I think he is. I think his contract is up
this year. I think he has been reunited with Justin Fields in New York.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think he lived up to the hype. I know that some people look back on him and they wonder, what happened. Why was this guy not more? Because there was so much hype surrounding him. But he was just underutilized. But I mean, if you go back, you watch his highlights and stuff. He had a hell of a lot of catches that were really, really jaw dropping and eye opening. They didn't use the Ohio State offense just doesn't utilize the tight end like it should have. And but Jeremy Rucker was great. He was great. Probably is one of the best in Ohio State history. Obviously, based on those things we just went over.
No, I would agree with you. And now to validate the absolute wonkiness of On3 here, I've got what they have rated somehow a 4-star, number 1 in the nation, number 1 at the position, number 1 in the state. Antoine Jackson Jr., a 4-star. That's where it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so Antoine Jackson was a 4-star based off of 24/7's rankings too.
Yeah.
He was the 18th best recruit in Ohio State's class based off their things. So he was a JUCO guy. This was a guy that committed to Auburn and sat the bench. I don't think he transferred because of grades. This was back when the SEC. This is back when you had to sit out a year or two. He transferred because he was part of that 2016 class.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he was a part of the 2016 class. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that was back before you could just transfer willy-nilly. You had to sit out a year, and every school had specific rules about where you could transfer. He could not transfer to another. Basically, Auburn could block him. Auburn blocked him from all other SEC schools, and they specifically blocked him from Ohio State, or else he would have ended up at Ohio State earlier. Okay, so he transferred to Blinn Community College, which is where Cam Newton had an amazing JUCO career. One of the best JUCO. My understanding is one of the best JUCO players at that position, and at that time in a long time. Ohio State does not take JUCO players very often. This will be our third iteration of this show or these recaps, and this is the first JUCO guy. So that shows you how valuable he was. he didn't exactly live up to the hype. He had 7 starts in 2021 where he had 23 tackles and 4.5 tackles for loss. He earned his first start of his career in 2020 in the season opener against Nebraska. In 2020, he had 11 total tackles, and including a crucial sack against Alabama in the college football championship game where they got blown out. That's a 0. So
that's a 0. We're going to be followed by another one. We've got the number 1 recruit out of St. Louis, Missouri, Cameron Babb. Hurts to give this individual a 0.
Yeah, Cam Babb. He was 24/7 said he was the 4th best recruit for Ohio State that year. Wide receiver, 4-star, Army All-American, 5 knee surgeries during his tenure as an Ohio State. He tore his ACL right before the start of his freshman season, so he missed all of his freshman season. Then he missed the entirety of 2019 because I think he tore his knee again during the spring practices. He was healthy in 2020 and played in 7 games. That was the COVID-shortened year where there's only 8 games, so that's pretty cool. But then he immediately blew out his knee again during spring practices in 2021 and was lost for the entirety of that year. Played in 2022, but at this point he was basically a shell of what he was. Caught his one and only pass from C.J. Stroud against Indiana for an 8-yard touchdown. I was at that game. It was pretty emotional. Good person, good player. I think he was a captain 2 years in a row. Wore the 0 jersey. Good human being. Sometimes shit just doesn't work out. Again, it would have been nice to have an asterisk next to his name. Do I think that Cam Babb would have been a star? Probably not. For some reason, we were doing, and I know it's because of my brother-in-law, but I'm paying attention to these kids from Missouri, and none of them seem to pan out. I don't know if it's because high school football is garbage there. I don't know what's going on. The only one that I remember panning out is Zeke Elliott. I don't, there was nothing ever that really made me pop about Babb, so I don't want to sit here and act like we missed out on an All-American player, but it would have been interesting to see what would happen if he didn't have 5 fucking torn ACLs.
Oof. Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that one. Good story. As you said, emotional, that touchdown against Indiana, the entire announcing crew was in on it. About 4 or 5 different good for hims. Just after him, we've got the number 2 recruit out of New York. Ohio State got both 1 and 2 out of New York this year. Matthew Jones, offensive tackle.
Yeah, Matthew Jones. Everybody's going to remember him. He's 24/7 said he was the 10th best recruit in this Ohio State class. Matthew Jones actually had pretty big expectations. He was rated as a 4-star offensive tackle by 24/7 Sports, former Under Armour All-American. But everybody knew he was going to be a center. Some recruiting services listed him as a center and said he was the best center prospect of that year. Check it out. This is an interesting fact. Not really a fun one, just another piece of evidence that COVID destroyed college football. But he is Xavier Johnson and Josh Proctor are the only players in Ohio State history, and hopefully the only ones ever to letter 5 times at Ohio State because they had that extra code. Yeah. He earned second team Big Ten All-Conference honors by both the coaches and the media in 22 and 2023. So this is going to be the first guy that we have that actually got points. Those are, so he got 4 points in our little thing here. He played in every game in 2020, which obviously was 8 games because of the COVID year. Starting 3 of them, he started against Michigan State and against Clemson in the semifinals, as well as against Alabama in the championship game. He also played in 8 games in 2019 as a redshirt freshman that year. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And he played guard that year behind Jonah Jackson, so he did play a few snaps, and then he redshirted in 2018. Interesting career.
Points is points for the Buckeyes. We'll take it.
Yeah, he was okay. We've been giving out a lot of zeros, so I'm not gonna shit on Mr. Jones here, right?
No, Mr. Jones and me. Moving on. On 3's got it right. We've got Tommy Togiai out of Idaho, the number 1 player out of Idaho. They didn't fuck that one up.
Can I just say, Matthew Jones, he did have a couple games where he was fucking butt. Like he's one of those. He was one of those offensive linemen. Like how Josh Fryer won All Big Ten.
Oh yeah.
But everybody bitched about him. Matthew Jones had a very similar career to that. Again,
not
bad. Not bad. I'm not bitching about him. It's just like compared to other offensive linemen, it is interesting. Yeah, Tommy Togiai was rated as the number 13 best recruit in Ohio State recruiting class. this is one I want a big asterisk next to as well, and I'll get into that in a bit. 4-star Army All-American, Idaho Gatorade Player of the Year. He was second team All Big Ten in 2020 by both the coaches and the media. He had 8.5 tackles for loss, including 3 sacks in that 2020 game over Penn State. If you want to watch a goddamn dominant performance, watch Tommy Togiai against Penn State. I don't know if there's a more dominant defensive tackle game than what Tommy Togiai did against Penn State in 2020. He played in 7 games that year. There were 8, right? It's COVID year.
Yeah.
Had 23 total tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks, which again all occurred against Penn State. In 2019, he played in 14 games, which was every game, and finished with 16 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. Here's the deal with Togiai, okay? Togiai, how many points did we give him?
Gave him 4.
That's sad because that dude was good. This is a guy, again, I'm trying to be as objective as possible because I talked about, well, if this guy wasn't hurt, it would have been interesting. Like I talked about Tyreek Smith and Jalen Gill and Cam Babb. But a lot of those guys had huge deficiencies that I don't know if they would have overcome. Tommy Togiai is one of the most – there are moments where he is extremely dominant. When he was sick. He had COVID for that national championship game in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been interesting to see how that game would have turned out if he was healthy. And he also left early. He left early. Yes. I really believe if Togiai would have stayed another year in school, we would be talking about him in a different way. I think we would be talking about him like an All-American. I think. No,
I could definitely see it. He was the person that jumped out at me when I saw big old TT here. I was like, man, he shouldn't have left early. Man, I remember Tommy T should have stayed one more year. Oof.
And he was so strong. I don't know what his combine numbers are, right? Because there are guys that like bench press 7 million pounds. I'm not saying that he did that, but his play strength and his hand strength was so great. There are highlights of him just manhandling dudes. I really do believe if he would have stayed another year, we could be looking at All-American. But unfortunately, that's not what we got.
I would agree with you. Coming up next, out of Don Bosco Prep, the number 2 guy out of New Jersey, Tyler Friday.
Yes, Tyler Friday. Let me scroll down. You see, I'm all fucked up because you used all 3. He was the number 17th recruit based on 24/7 Sports in Ohio State's class. Defensive end, 4-star. This was a big deal. I really want to emphasize this was a big gift for Ohio State at the time. And unfortunately, another guy that just got devastated by injuries. He missed the 2021 campaign because of an injury. I think that same injury caused him to miss 7 games in 2022.
Yeah.
He also was hurt in 2020, but he played 5 of the games and even started the opener against Nebraska, but then was hurt again that year and didn't play against Alabama. He played in 11 games as a sophomore and even started 4 games, started against Cincinnati, Miami, Rutgers, and Wisconsin, the Big Ten championship game. Okay. And even had a tackle or a sack against Clemson that year. And as a true freshman, he played in 10 games. So Tyler Friday was going to be, I don't know if he was ever going to be a dog because I don't know if he had that unique explosion of a guy like Chase Young or whatever. But clearly he was going to play. Clearly they were shoving him out there and he just kept getting hurt, just kept getting ravaged by injuries.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got.
So he was a pointer.
No, absolutely. We've got 5th-year letter winner, number 41, Josh Proctor, out of Oklahoma, out of Owasso, Oklahoma.
Yeah, Josh Proctor. I'm scrolling. Yeah, he was based on 24/7 Sports. He was the number 5th player in Ohio State's class, safety, 4-star, Army All-American. Again, you talked about it. He's one of those magnificent 3. Him, Matt Jones, and Xavier Johnson that lettered 5 times. Hopefully the only ones because I'm sick of guys going to school for 10 years. Played in 11 games in 2023, as we know, which was his best season, had 47 tackles, an interception, 8 pass breakups, which ended up being second on the team. His career high game was of 7 tackles. Actually, he accomplished that twice in 2023, back-to-back games against Notre Dame and Maryland. In 2022, he played in 11 games, started 4 of them, had 21 tackles and 2 pass breakups, and he started the first 2 games of 2021 and made 10 tackles in those games, but then got hurt against Oregon and missed the rest of the season. In 2018, 2019, he was the backup to Jordan Fuller. This is another guy. Again, I don't know if he had that athletic. There's a reason Jordan Fuller played over him. I think Jordan Fuller was more athletic, but I do think that if Josh Proctor didn't destroy his leg against Oregon, maybe we'd be talking about him differently. Not like I truly believe Tommy Togiai was a special talent. Tommy Togiai, we talked about Derek Ross. Derek Ross is who we always bring up for some reason. I really need to stop doing that. Tommy Togiai, I really think that he was special. I don't think Josh Proctor was that, but I do think that if he wouldn't have got injured, I mean, after that injury, he was just a different player.
No, I mean, barring the injury, maybe he would have, leaked out a point or two more. Maybe we look at 2 or 3 points here than the one.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily even saying that Josh Proctor was like, oh, he's slower or weaker, which I do think he was probably slower after the injury. But he kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit too. Like that's just kind of what happens, and he just didn't really explode out. But I think he might have. I think he might have not for that injury.
Yeah, no, I got you. They're going to make you work here. I got 2 back-to-back transfers. We got Blue Smith, 4-star wide receiver out of Dayton, Ohio, and Max Ray, offensive tackle out of Franklin, Tennessee. Back-to-back transfers, my friend.
LaChristian Blue Smith. So we talked about him a little bit at the top. He's one of the biggest recruits in Ohio. There was a little bit of hype around him because he was so big. I think he was 6'6". He was rated as a 4-star
6'6", 205.
Yeah. He was rated as the number 19th best recruit in Ohio State's class that year. Everybody knew he was going to be a wide receiver, right? He didn't do shit. He got redshirted and immediately transferred out, was very impatient, went to Cincinnati, didn't do shit again, went to Western Kentucky where he was also pretty underwhelming. So that was kind of the story behind Blue Smith. And there's really not a lot of reason for it. Just kind of, I don't think he was, he just wasn't built for it.
Yeah. And then Max Ray.
Oh, you said Max Ray. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Max Ray. I think he's coaching now, by the way. I think
he is.
I think he's coaching at Toledo. 4-star offensive tackle, Army All-American. He was rated as the 11th best recruit in Ohio State's recruiting class that year. He did end up transferring to Colorado, so another guy that's going to get 0 points. He played 7 games in 2020, even started one. That game he started was the 52-12 win over Michigan State, which he graded out as an offensive line champion, which I believe means he was the MVP of the offensive line that game.
Yes.
He also played in the national championship game against Alabama. During 2019, he saw action in 5 games and then redshirted in 2018. He got kind of lost in the shuffle, was never really going to play. No injuries, nothing to blame there. Just wasn't good enough. I don't think he was that great at Colorado either.
No, he wasn't. But I did see that he is a grad assistant coach now. Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, I'm with it. Another one we talked about it. We both talked about it. Dallas Gant, that transfer went ahead, went back home to Toledo. Number 6 guy in the class from the state of Ohio, linebacker Dallas Gant. Had the size, had all of it. It wasn't it for Ohio State.
What'd they list his size at?
6'3", 225, my friend.
Yeah, see, I don't think that's entirely accurate. I don't really remember. I've seen Dallas Gant in person a couple times. I think that was kind of the issue, is that he was a little bit of a tweener. He was a little bit like Court Williams. First of all, Dallas Gant was rated as the number 8th best Ohio State recruit by 24/7 Sports, 4-star outside linebacker, Army All-American. He was too slow to play safety and too small to play linebacker. That's how I would summarize it. I don't think he was 225 pounds. I would put money that he wasn't. It'd be interesting to see if he went to the combine. Yeah. Because maybe those numbers would be a little different. Played in 36 games for Ohio State from 2018-21, 54 career tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and 21 tackles. And 2019 was his best year. He had 21 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. 2020, even though there's only 8 games, he had 17 tackles. So it wasn't like he didn't play. He just wasn't. He was not good enough to make his mark, I guess. No excuses there.
No, but again, like we said, went to Toledo, had a successful career.
Had a hell of a career at Toledo. Yeah. Two-time All-MAC. Had a great career at Toledo.
Absolutely. Our Master Teague himself, out of Tennessee, little bowling ball of a running back, 5th in the state of Tennessee that year. He got 3 points. We would have loved to see him get more. Would you agree?
Yeah, man. This is one that I would certainly asterisk. There was a lot of hype around him too. I was kind of surprised when I was going back and reading all of that because, again, we have other running backs who are rated higher than him. But I think, like you said, it was his unique running style that made him people oh man, that guy's gonna fit the Big Ten.
Right.
He was rated as the 16th best Ohio State recruit by 24/7 Sports, 4-star, rushed for 363 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2021. During 2020, which again was the COVID season, he was second on the team with 514 yards on 104 carries. Had 8 rushing touchdowns in 2020, which was the most on the team and third most of the Big Ten. Had two of those touchdowns came against a dominant game against Nebraska. Also 2 touchdowns against Indiana and also 2 touchdowns against Alabama. 2, 4, 6, yeah. He rushed for a career high 169 yards on 26 carries in a big 42-35 win over number 9 Indiana during the COVID 2020 season. I watched that game recently, and Master Teague was phenomenal. Super fun game to watch. He had ripped off a couple long ones. I forgot that he was fast because I don't think he ended his career that fast. He finished as the Big Ten 7th leading rusher that year, or as a redshirt freshman in 2019, despite playing behind All-American J.K. Dobbins. He had 135 carries in those 13 games in 2019 for 789 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was 13 All Big Ten that year. He had 200-yard games, one against Indiana, killed it against Indiana. 10 carries, 106 yards, 1 touchdown. For some reason, he loved destroying Indiana. He also had a 100-yard game against Maryland. He also had a 73-yard touchdown against Northwestern that year, which was Ohio State's longest run from scrimmage in 2019. Again, this is the same year team that had J.K. Dobbins. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns against Nebraska that year as well. So he did very well against Nebraska. He carried the ball 17 times in 4 games as a true freshman in 2018 before they slapped the red shirt on him. This is a guy that left for the draft early. I don't know why. I think it was because they were slowly fading him out in favor of Travion Henderson, I believe. Would that be that right here? That
makes sense. Yeah.
That was a dumb decision on his part. He should have stayed and been second fiddle again. He was a good running back. He was okay. Again, he wasn't special, but this is a guy that very much in the same vein as Mike Weber. Probably could have stayed.
Yeah.
Probably got drafted late. Maybe had I don't know. Would have made more of a run as in Ohio State history than he did, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. The transfer portal is so much more prevalent than it was in 2018. But, a couple of these players, we've seen like, man, if they would have just stayed, they could have not only helped themselves, help their draft stock, obviously, but obviously helped and coach, teach, mold, and mentor the individuals behind them too.
Yeah. Again, Tommy Togiai is different to me because I do think that he had All-American first-round potential, like dominant, fucking Tyleik Williams kind of potential. Master Teague didn't have that, right? Master Teague, he was going to be second fiddle again, but it's like, dude, why not? Why do that? Why not be second fiddle at Ohio State over not getting drafted at all? That just seems like a weird decision. But whatever. It is interesting though. Go back, you guys. The 2020 game against Indiana was a super fun watch. I watched that recently. That was Michael Penix was the quarterback for Indiana that year, passing to Ty Freifogel, and Master Teague probably had 3 rushes for over 40 yards. Just absolutely dominant, fucking explosive game. That is one of the most impressive running back games in recent Ohio State memory. He just looked great. He looked great. It's a fun watch. And J.K. Dobbins, I think J.K. Dobbins had over 100 yards rushing that game too.
Yeah. I'm writing it down now. I'm going to go and watch that with my dinner tonight.
It's a fun watch. It's a fun watch. Because Indiana was good that year.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I remember that Indiana team was actually really damn good that year, that COVID season. We got 2 recruits that came in as linebackers and left as transfers. We got Javonte Jean Baptiste and Kayvon Poe.
Yeah, let me pull up Jean Baptiste. So Javonte Jean Baptiste, he's an interesting one. We unfortunately had to give him 0 points. 24/7 point rate him as the 14th best Ohio State recruit, 4-star outside linebacker. He earned his first 2 starts in 2020 for Ohio State against Rutgers and against Alabama in that national championship game, dude.
Yep.
He had pretty impactful games against Toledo, Iowa, and Georgia in 2022, where he earned sacks in all 3. He also earned sacks against Maryland, Nebraska in 2021. He also got a sack against Penn State in 2020, as well as against Indiana and Miami in 2019, back-to-back games. His best game was in 2019 against Northwestern, where he had 4 tackles, and then he's got a red shirt, and 2018 didn't play at all. Transfer to Notre Dame.
Yep.
He was okay. This is a guy I think that they should have worked harder to keep at Ohio State because he was good. He kind of got lost in the shuffle, was a rotational guy, but he was very, very good. He was very, very good.
Yeah, winning Kayvon Pope.
Oh, Kayvon Pope, dude. I have a strong connection to Kayvon Pope because before the 2021 year, I projected him. I always like to pick out 2 or 3 Buckeyes that I think are going to explode. I predicted Kayvon Pope to be a first-team All Big Ten that year. I thought he was athletic. I thought he was gifted. He was a fun player to watch. His high school tape's awesome. And, he was the 22nd best Ohio State recruit that year. Outside linebacker, 4-star. I stand by it, dude. 2018, he played in 11 games. He played in 11 games in 2018. Recorded one solo tackle. 2019, he played in all three. He played in 13 games, had 13 tackles, 7 tackles by himself, 6 assists, and 2 interceptions. Count them 2 in back-to-back games against Maryland and Rutgers. 2020, he saw action in 6 games. Again, this is the COVID season. Had 2 tackles, 1 solo, 1 assist. Here's the big one. 2021, he played in 3 games. Got 3 tackles, 1 pass breakup, and then 1 crisis at halftime against Akron. This is the player. This is the player. I was at this game as well. This is the player where he fucking flipped out and threw his gloves in the stands and said, "Only come to Ohio State if you want to get." What did he say? If you want to get shit on by coaches or whatever.
Something of the sort. Yeah, you're right. It's coming back to me now.
So he got kicked off the team. This recruiting class, there was a lot of guys that got kicked off the team, but Kayvon Pope got kicked off the team, obviously. And he transferred to Tennessee State with Eddie George. Yep. Okay. And was absolutely phenomenal. Was Ohio Valley Conference Player of the Year or Newcomer of the Year. Was all OVC at linebacker. He led the team in tackles, sacks. He was on pace to be a fucking wrecking ball at Tennessee State. Got kicked off the team. No one knows why. Never came back. And then he was done. So interesting career. It seems like Pope was just kind of a piece of shit. So a lot of these guys, we say, "Oh, that guy's a good person. That guy's a really good person." I don't think Kayvon Pope was a good person.
You can quote me on that.
Yeah, there you go.
Round out this one, we've got Cam Brown, the number 5 recruit out of the state of Missouri. Cam Brown, receiver, 6 foot, 199.
Another fucking St. Louis guy, dude. Cam Brown. Let me look up how many did we give him. We gave him 0 points. That's kind of a shame. So Cam Brown was listed as a wide receiver. The 24/7 ranked him as the 21st best player in the Ohio State recruiting class. He obviously moved to cornerback immediately. I'm trying to look up. He played all 14 games. In 2019, he finished with 14 tackles. Oh, wow. I actually wrote quite a bit on him. And 2018, he played in 5 games as a true freshman and then got hurt. Knocked out. So he was playing, got hurt. 2019 as a sophomore, he played in all 14 games, had 14 tackles, 10 being solo, 2 tackles for loss, and 1 pass breakup. In 2020, he started the first 2 games. He started against Nebraska and Penn State before, again, suffering another season-ending injury. In 2021, I'm trying to look up. He earned honorable mention All Big Ten in 2021 after registering 24 tackles, 7 pass breakups, and an interception. He had that interception in the critical win over Penn State. He had a hell of a game where he had career best 6 tackles, including a personal best 5 solo tackles in 2021 against Tulsa. He also had a hell of a game against Michigan where he had 4 tackles, but that was that was in 2022. He also had a great game against Penn State in 2021 where he had 5 tackles again. Let's see here. He came back from injury. We talked about him missing a chunk of the 2020 season due to injury, COVID. That's the second injury he had. Played 11 games in 2021 and then 8 games in 2022, including 14 tackles and 5 pass breakups. Never really regained. He was kind of on an upward trajectory, then he got hurt, and then kind of lost in the shuffle. That's the Cam Brown story. It would have been interesting to see what would happen if he would have got, because that's 2 injuries, right? That we talked about.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Who we got here?
No, he had that season. He had that season-ending injury in 2020. I just said it twice. I apologize.
Yeah. You got twisted up on that one. Guy started early today. We did. Wanted to let you guys enjoy your evening for Memorial Day. We wanted to jump on a little early, but Will, as always, glad you're here. This one, I want to hear your opinion. I've got 2 back-to-back transfers. One of them you're going to give a little bit more time to. I've got Sevyn Banks out of Orlando, Florida, and we got Matthew Baldwin, quarterback out of Texas. Sevyn Banks.
Yeah, so Sevyn Banks is rated as the number 24 best recruiting Ohio State recruiting class based on 24/7 Sports. This is who they rated as a 3-star recruit. But he wasn't under Armour All-American. He was definitely rated as a 4-star recruit in a couple services. I even saw one recruiting. I saw him listed as a 5-star a few places too. So it was very interesting to see that 24/7 gave him a 3-star rating. But here we are. He ended up transferring to LSU, so he gets another 0. He was an interesting guy. I'm going to try to read. I write him down chronologically, like my little notes here, but I'm going to try to go backwards on this one. Well, let's just go. In 2019, he played in all. Well, is there 2018? 2018. He appeared in 6 games as a true freshman. Had 1 tackle versus Maryland, and he returned a punt for 33 yards against Michigan. So he played a little bit, right? 2019. I'm trying to find. He appeared in all 14 games, recorded 11 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, and interception, which was against Northwestern. He had 2 tackles in a win over Florida Atlantic and Rutgers, and then he started that Rutgers game. So we got 2019. He's got his first start under his belt. So 2020, he starts all 8 games. Right, this is the COVID season. Had 7 tackles against Alabama in the national championship game. That's a season high, and he also led Ohio State with 7 pass breakups and 8 passes defensed. Against Clemson, he gets a key interception on their final drive of the game, or an honorable mention all Big Ten that year. Okay. Yep. 2021. All right. It's kind of weird how this all happens. So those are all okay numbers, right? He's doing okay. Yada. He is on the 3rd team preseason All-American honors list, and he was named on the Thorpe Award and Nagurski Trophy watch list in 2021. 2021, he plays in 8 games. Misses the first 2 games of the year and final 3 games of the year with an injury. He records 8 tackles and 2 pass breakups. That's what he did. Now, here's the Sevyn Banks story is one. There should be an Ohio State 30 for 30 on his career.
Yeah,
because the amount of hype he had going into that 2021 season. We can look into preseason magazines. He was listed as an All-American in every magazine. And even some of those NFL magazines where they do like mock drafts first, he was listed in multiple first-round mock drafts. Now, you and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago where this might be, if Davison Igbinosun doesn't get drafted early, that you could compare it to Sevyn Banks. But Davison Igbinosun had a much better season and a much better year than Sevyn Banks ever did. It's really weird how much hype. Huh?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird the amount of hype Sevyn Banks got heading into 2021, especially considering he was not the most highly rated recruit ever. I don't know if it was just because he had a lot of physical traits. He was from Ohio State. I don't know what the deal was.
Yeah.
But also, too, he was also one of the first athletes at Ohio State to really profit off the NIL thing. They announced NIL, and he immediately went to the mall and started signing autographs. And if you remember, he was releasing NFTs when he was hurt. During the game. Yeah,
that's right.
It's it would be interesting to see like what I don't know what would have happened if he wouldn't. I don't know, dude. It's just things were lining up for him really cush, and he fucked it all up. And I don't know. And it's not injuries. It's just not injuries. I don't know if it was NFTs or the NIL shit but I mean, I don't know. I know he had a couple of injuries, but they weren't like major. And then he was getting benched for Denzel Burke. It was just a weird thing. Who came in as a true freshman as an athlete.
Yes.
No corner experience. It was just really strange. And then he went to LSU and didn't do shit there either.
Exactly. There it is.
The Sevyn Banks story is really interesting. It's really interesting if we knew more details about it.
Yeah. I'm gonna just for not to schmooze everyone, but for time as well. I'm gonna give you 3 transfers. All right. I'm gonna give you Matthew Baldwin, Lake Travis, Texas, quarterback. Alex Williams, Pickering North, defensive end. Tower of a dude, 6'7", 260. And brother of Malik, Marcus Hooker, safety out of Newcastle, Pennsylvania. All 3 transfers.
Are these the last 3 guys? No, they're not.
No. We got 2 more.
Okay. All right. Okay. Matt, I'll make it quick. Matthew Baldwin was the 4-star. This was the emergency quarterback after Emory Jones, but still very, very highly rated. I just said a 4-star recruit. He took a red shirt, immediately transferred to TCU, struggled with injuries, and medically retired from the sport. Was rated as the 23 best recruit based on 24/7 Sports. Alex Williams was the 25th best recruit based on 24/7 Sports. Now, Alex Williams is very much he was the DeJuan Jones of this class. He, like you said, he was like 6'7", 250. Everybody, he was everybody. Remember how we talked about DeJuan Jones was like circled as like sleeper, 3-star. This is the dude. That was Alex Williams that year, and it just never happened. Part of the reason, Alex Williams is kind of an interesting story too. I won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but he's with the Vikings right now. Okay.
Yeah.
But he wasn't any good in college ever. So it's really kind of interesting to see how far size and potential take you. He didn't play at Ohio State, took a redshirt his only year, and then transferred out immediately to Vanderbilt. He's on record saying that his biggest mistake in his college career was transferring from Ohio State so early. He went to Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt said, hey, you might be better off going somewhere else, because he didn't play there either. So then he just quit playing football and just went to school. They let him keep his scholarship at Vanderbilt, and he didn't play football for a year. And then Derek Mason left to go coach at Middle Tennessee, called him up, and he played one more year. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think he played 1 year at Middle Tennessee. Right, that would be 4 years. A couple years later, whatever. He was in school. He was only in school for 5 years. He took a year off. Now he's with the Vikings. Kind of an interesting story because he wasn't good in college at any of those places. Right. Very average player.
Wow. Marcus Hooker?
Yeah, Marcus Hooker, younger brother, Malik Hooker. This is another guy that I thought really had star potential. He's big, fast, strong, 3-star. He ended up being fairly productive at Youngstown State. He does have a little bit of story. 2019, he did play 14 games. He did have 7 tackles, 4 solo tackles, and he played in 2 games as a redshirt freshman in 2018. 2020, he was honorable mention All Big Ten because he played in 7 games. This was the COVID season. He had 15 tackles, 13 solo tackles. He broke up 3 passes and intercepted a pass against Penn State. Okay. That game against Penn State was a great game. He had 6 tackles, including 5 by himself. 2021, he played in 11 games, only had 9 tackles. 3 of them were solo. He had a DUI. Rumors, I guess he was kind of a bit of a headache. And then they dismissed him from the team, welcomed him back, dismissed him. It was not he had a lot of potential, but the issues that he faced were his fault, and now he's with the Colts.
A lot of self-inflicted wounds here with Marcus Hooker.
I think he's still with the Colts, though, right? Or did he?
I think he is. He is actually. Yeah, he is. He is still with the Colts.
He was okay at Youngstown State.
I've got to ask you this about our diamond in the rough here. Rough here. On 3 has this young man rated the 381st rated player in the nation in the 2018 class. Where do you have Mr. Chris Olave at?
So I don't have exactly where they had him rated, but he is the 20th highest recruit in Ohio State's class. He is behind Blue Smith. Blue Smith. So he's behind Jalen Gill. He's behind Master Teague. It's pretty wild because he went on to have how many points did we give good old Chris Olave?
Should be 17. Yes.
Yeah, we gave him 17 points. In an effort to cut on time, I'll try to make this as quickly as possible. As a freshman, he caught 2 touchdowns and blocked a punt. That led to a touchdown against.
And that was the top of his career. Yep. That was the catalyst of it all. And of course, they were against the team up north, and it makes you think too. It makes you think about a lot of these recruits too. They got an opportunity and took it, and Chris Olave never looked back. Again, I'm looking at on 3. We're talking about the 381st ranked player in the nation, and he
was a 4-star though. What did on 3 give him 4 stars?
He was the 69th rated wide receiver. 69.
They give him 4 stars though, or is that 3? I don't know.
He's at 4 stars. Yes.
Okay. All right. So it's not like he was a nobody. He just wasn't one of the guns. Yeah. He wasn't DeJuan Jones's level where he, 3 people recruited him or whatever. But and you're right. He didn't look back. As a sophomore, he led the team in receiving yards with 849, yards per catch of 17.3, and touchdowns. That was immediate. I'm trying to. He has the school record with 35 receiving touchdowns, which is the most. Fourth most in the Big Ten Conference history. And also he's third in school history with 176 receptions and fifth in school history with receiving yards with 2,711. He's also second in Ohio State with 11 100-yard games in his career. He was the first team All-American 2021 by AFCA. He was also second team All-American by the AP, Walter Camp, and FWAA. Why Wikipedia has fucked that up, I don't know, but they did. He is an All-American. He teamed with Garrett Wilson to become the first set of Ohio State receivers to be named first-team All-American in the same season, and became just the second set of receiver teammates ever to be named first-team All-American in the same season by one of the Big Five organizations that we talked about. He caught 65 passes for 936 yards and 13 touchdowns in 2021, which tied for sixth nationally in 2021, 13 receiving touchdowns. He was first-team All-Big Ten Conference in 2020 and 2021. He led the 2020 Ohio State team in receptions with 50, receiving yards 729, and touchdowns with 7. He tied an Ohio State single-season record for receptions per game in 2020 with 7.1. He caught 6 passes for 132 yards with 2 touchdowns and a 49-28 win over number 2 Clemson in the semifinal in the Sugar Bowl that year. And then we talked that I think we're caught up on everything. Did I miss anything?
Will jumps in. I thought Blue was going to do something with a name like that. You know, I remembered Blue when I made these graphics. Will, and I was like, what is this, Jay-Z's kid? But no, I digress. And we've got
Will,
one more.
If you go back and listen to, I make a lot of excuses for a lot of these guys that didn't make it, but there's no excuse for him. He just wasn't built for it, bro.
Yeah. One last one. Brian Sneed from Sefner, Florida, running back, 5'11", 200. Go ahead.
This is a big old 0. 4-star running back for 4. Yeah. This was a guy that everybody thought was going to be the shit. He was in a lot of these magazines listed as somebody who's going to do something. Higher recruit to Master Teague, Under Armour All-American. He played 2 games as a freshman, 11 carries for 37 yards and a touchdown. Then he raped someone and was dismissed.
I'm glad I left him for last, I guess.
I believe it was allegedly. I think that the charges were dropped, but the school said that he was still doing something shady. They kicked him out of school. And if you got to be kicked out of Ohio State as a football player, you done fucked up. Listen, I'll shit on other schools. You know, we talked about the low academic standards at Florida, and even Michigan took a guy who didn't go to classes. But listen, Ohio State will make you if you even hinted. If there's a chance you didn't do something wrong, Ohio State will fight to keep you, especially if you're a football player. And as good as one as Brian Sneed, and they did not help him. They were like, goodbye. He ended up transferring. No one wanted him. He ended up transferring to Iowa Western. Is that right? Yes. I don't know if I wrote this down.
Iowa Western. You're right.
Yeah, which is a JUCO. That's a JUCO. They play like the Last Chance U kids. He might even been in that fucking show. He set the world on fire. Had a great year there. Went to Austin P, where he also was very productive. He's a very talented running back. He was a very talented running back. There's no questions on that. And then he transferred to Arkansas State, where he really didn't do much. He didn't do shit at Arkansas State. He actually played against Ohio State that year. I was at that game, and he was just kind of an average dude. But against Austin P, when he was playing guys that looked like me, he was killing it.
Oh fuck, that's a good one. Hey, so ignore the typo on the screen. Josh and I, we cleared up the discrepancies with the points allotted to Chris Olave. He actually had 17 points, which would bring this 2018 class to 53 points in total off our scoring system. In a recap, 2020, that class, we 101 points. That was class the likes of CJ Stroud and a lot of these other, big scoring players. Last week, winner of the 2019 class was awarded 61 points, and this week, 2018 class, 53 points in total. Josh, predictions for next week in the 2017 class?
I'm actually trying to pull it up, dude. You know who they got it? Like I'm trying to even remember who was on that, who was in that class. We talked about. Oh, dude. Oh, bro. This was a big class, dude. This was Baron Browning, Jeff Okudah. This might be the best one. I'm trying, Sean Wade was a big-time recruit. Okudah was a big-time recruit. Yeah. Baron Browning was a big-time recruit. Chase Young was in this class. Let's see how many. That's not right. Where you why is this not working?
Josh, this is a good question for you here from Will. Who do you guys think is the best evaluator in recruiting? What's the one, source
What?
of
So what's
science
the
here
question
that,
you cut out?
who do you guys think is the best evaluator in recruiting?
Like who is the best evaluator?
I think maybe Will, when it comes to this, thinking maybe like sports sites, this, that, and the third, magazines, scripted, posted,
Oh,
things like
dude,
that.
it's all a crapshoot. They don't fucking none of them.
Mel Kiper,
So
yeah.
Tom Lemming is the first who did it. Tom Lemming is like the Mel Kiper of the recruiting world, right? And he kind of and then 24/7 kind of stole that idea. Tom Lemming kind of stopped. But basically, but even Tom Lemming, you don't have time to recruit these kids or to go out and scout all these fucking kids. You just don't, right? Basically, how it works is they have a Rolodex of coaches that they call that let them know, hey, we're looking at this kid. They're talking to high school coaches, right? Like, hey, this kid got this many offers and that many offers. And then they take that and they're like, oh, well, if this kid's got offers from Georgia and Ohio State, he must be good. To show you that recruiting is kind of a fucking crapshoot. I mean, obviously, if you got a guy like Chase Young, right? We're going to be talking about him next week in the 2017 class. That guy was huge. He looked like a grown-ass man when you watched him play high school football, right? You can go watch Michael Bennett's high school tape. That's one that I recently watched at Centerville, and he was fucking dominant. Like, there is something to like, oh, that guy's fucking dominant. He's going to be all right. But here's the other caveat. You're at Ohio State. Find me a bad highlight tape. Find me a bad game by any of these guys, right? I mean, Tavion St. Clair might have had, or Aaron Nolan might have like one of the worst high school tapes, but that's because he was hurt, right? Like when you compare him to other quarterbacks. And by the way, he was still better than any quarterback that I saw in high school. He was better than any quarterback I saw in college. It's just so much of a crapshoot. Do you remember that guy that lied about receiving the scholarship offers and committed to Cal on ESPN or on his local news station?
Yeah.
He never had any fucking offer.
Yeah.
That shows you how much of a crapshoot it is. That shows you how much of a crapshoot it is. Yeah, man, it's just kind of a joke. I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
No, I'm with you there. It's not like these people that are on these websites or in these magazines are going and watching these kids during 2-a-days and watching every high school game and this and that. It's potential. We're evaluating on potential. And that's just what it is. And size and some of these other characteristics come in so much as well.
There are so many kids, and we need to have Stuart back on the show. There are so many kids that a lot of these coaches already have things that they don't have time, so they immediately limit you. Like Mark Pantoni, I think Mark Pantoni is certainly a better talent evaluator than anybody you're going to read on 24/7 Sports or On 3, because he sees these kids in person. He's talking to these kids, right? He's talking to high school coaches. He's got all this data that he's keeping, right? And he's basically the general manager for Ohio State at this point. But there's just so much crap out there, man. I don't know. Stuart will tell you that there's recruits Ohio State missed out on specifically because Urban Meyer had criteria where he's like, don't waste my. Stuart has a story where he brings up Christian McCaffrey, and they tell Urban, they're like, hey, dude, you got to look at this guy. And Urban was like, I'm not this guy. He plays at a private school in Colorado or wherever it was, and he's like, I'm not doing this. Like, this guy's not going to do it for me. Didn't even fucking watch it. You know what I mean? There's a ton of stories like that. And it's not just Urban. Nick Saban's got weird. He didn't want to recruit guys like Tua and shit until I don't remember what changed his mind. It's just you automatically start cutting people off.
Yeah. Will comes back. It has to be a difficult job. Kids are still developing. Do you think it has a lot to do with size, speed, where they want? Yeah, I mean, it's. I can definitely see it being coaches looking at what they have coming back and what holes they need to fill and what they want that type of player to look like. No, I mean, absolutely will.
Yeah, like a player like Nicholas Petit-Frere, one of the reasons why he was so highly sought after is because his body was done. He was done. He could play Big Ten football now. Jackson Carman, that guy was ready to play now. His body was ready to play now. A guy like Luke Montgomery, his body wasn't ready. His body wasn't ready. He was bold. And a lot of these kids too, when you go back and you watch a lot of these high school kids play, everybody Ohio State recruits, I shouldn't say everybody, 99% of the guys Ohio State recruits, he's the biggest, fastest, strongest person on the field. right? When you read these scouting reports too, there's a common theme in everybody Ohio State. He's got to work on his technical aspect. He's got to work on his technique. Why does he have to work on his technique? Because he's the biggest, fastest fucking person out there. There is no technique. I'm just going to fucking pound you into the ground, or I'm going to be faster than you. That's all they do, right? So a lot of it, you have to be able to gauge, like, is this guy going to be able to learn? Is this guy a piece of shit? You know, and that's the Shedeur Sanders thing. When we do to try to tie it together to maybe everybody understands, the NFL draft is much easier to look at it because you see all these people. Everybody watches a lot of college football. Everybody who watched Colorado plays knows Shedeur Sanders is special. They know Shedeur Sanders has the physical talent to play in the NFL. The problem with Shedeur Sanders is that he's a dickhead, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, in high school, we don't get to see, and you know, so that's in college. It's more clear because you see these guys fall, and like you hear these stories of how they're in interviews and this and that. In high school, we don't hear about that, but you know, a lot of times that's what happens. These kids are just dickheads, and they don't want to change, they don't want to accept coaching, and yada yada yada. And that's where you get a lot of these busts, right? Or they're impatient. I think the impatience is the big thing now. They don't want to fucking sit and wait their turn.
Yeah.
Like Alex Williams was a 3-star recruit. He was 6'7", 250 pounds, and he didn't dominate. He wasn't like the most dominating fucking epic force in high school, right? So it's like he didn't have any patience. So I think that's
I'm with you. But let's say this. Josh's closing comments. Kids are dickheads. Is that
I think a lot of them are. I think a lot of them are. I mean, it's hard for us to identify that because we don't get to interview. But with the access that these kids are celebrities now more than ever, so you better bet your ass. You better bet your ass that I'm watching an interview for every single kid. I'm watching these kids talk on the news. I'm watching these kids do these, you know, because that's you can just tell. You can just tell who's going to put in the work and who's going to get frustrated and leave.
Yeah. Will comes in. Hey, Deion Sanders, the next Browns coach. There you go.
Well, we'll fucking see.
We'll see. We will see, and we will see you all next week. We're going to come with the 2017 class. This 2017 class, we think this might be the one. We're thinking this one might be the one, Josh.
Yeah, dude, I think this is going to be the one that fucking beats. I mean, I'm looking at it. You got Chase Young, Jeff Okudah right up there at the top. What? Like, those are two of the best Ohio State football players ever to play the game. Like, this might be a big one.
Will wants to let you know, hey, he made it to Russo's on Thursday. Didn't know who was going to be the – hey.
Did you like it? I hope you liked it.
We'll wait. We'll wait. Yeah, absolutely. Any Buckeye breaking news, we're going to have it next week. We're going to have the 2017 class. We're going to see if they're going to push that threshold and break the ceiling of 101 points held by the 2020 class. Josh, closing comments?
I do think it's interesting.
Yep, pretty good. Beer was kind of high though.
It's a little pricey. It's a little pricey, not gonna lie. We talked about it last week briefly. I said, man, I think that this 2017 recruiting class is going to be worse than the 2018 recruiting class. And we were kind of questioning it because it's the hype around the 2017 recruiting class was insane. Go to YouTube, check it out, dude, and compare it to the hype around the 2018 class. And I won't say I was right, but like the 2018 class was better because there was just more return on your investment. So many of these kids in the 2017 class didn't do shit. It's so crazy to look at the hype that one got compared to the other.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thanks for jumping on, spending your time with us, taking this stroll back down memory lane with us for this 2018 class. We'll be back with you next week for Buckeye news, as well as the 2017 class. Absolute studs. Will says I was going to send you a message, but wasn't sure if I was going. I will be back in the fall. You guys got to link up, man. Get your shit together. Josh. As always, I'm Chris. You can find me at CRunion15 on X. Josh?
Yeah, man. Follow me on X at Josh Keatley 16. And we'll be back next week.
We'll be back next week. And as always, go Bucks.
We'll be back next week.